go ahead and call to order the meeting for the Ellettsville Redevelopment Commission on Monday, January 7th. Please join us and bow your head in prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. We thank you for each and every one of the people here tonight. We ask that you help us work from a position of grace and empathy in the things we do to help our town and our town's men and women. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Dr. Hash,
Present.
Tom Corman, William Ellis,
Here.
Trevor Sager,
Here.
Carl Thurman,
Here.
Larry DeMoss.
Here.
I guess on the updates, do we have any updates? Is there something to present? I thought, was someone going to come and talk to us about that?
Just briefly, on the town council's agenda tonight is a resolution to approve the plan commission's resolution, approving your resolution, for the establishment of the 2 economic development areas. And that will come up again before you, this board, on February 24th for a public hearing. And Baker Tilly, the town's financial advisor, is already working on preparing the tax impact statement, which we will need to mail out to various entities. And we need to get a notice in the paper 10 days at least before the hearing. And at that hearing, you may confirm your declaratory resolutions, confirm and modify, or rescind them. So those will be your choices, and as soon as we get that tax impact statement, we'll provide it to you.
Darla, you said that was February 24th.
February 24th, it's your second meeting in February.
I will not be here.
Double checking right now.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
1 second.
Yeah, I'll be here. We need 3?
Yep, it's the 24th.
I'll be here.
Okay.
And do we have a working meeting coming up between now and then that we'll have some stuff where we can go over it in more detail before we present it? Always never really like coming into something not being fully prepared, depending on who shows up, who doesn't, for questions and discussions when I'm just getting it myself the day before I walk in.
Well, you have your first meeting in February, so there's probably some things we can talk about. We had planned to have Baker Tilly come to the second meeting in February for your benefit and for the benefit of the public. But if there's something you wanted to discuss, if we have the tax impact statement done, we can certainly talk about that then.
10. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
That's February 10th.
Yeah, I would strongly recommend in our first meeting and even tonight, kind of discuss, kind of sketch out kind of what the priorities would be. Wouldn't you agree, Mike? I mean, just like, do we want to start off with X? Do we want to start off with Y? Because some of the projects are going to cost quite a bit of money. Do we want to start off and wait till those are, do we have the money to do that? Or do we do something smaller to see that we're actually doing something? And that's my vote, to go for some smaller stuff like signage and that, to show that, hey, we are actually doing something. Right. But that's something we can all discuss. It's not a hill I'll die on, and because other people have different opinions and stuff I may not have thought about.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that would be a good idea before the public comes in, for us to have an outline instead of just saying, oh, we have all these things we want to do. Well, how do you want to do them? And if we say, well, we'll get them done or won't, I don't think the public.
I haven't heard much from the public. On that list of items, what were some of the hot topics? I'm curious on that.
Well, honestly, they just wanted to, the way the HT reported it, they were thinking we're spending $60 million right away. And everybody, when it was explained that this is just kind of a list, that, an all-inclusive list of things we'd like to work towards, they were okay with. Biggest thing from the public was the Riverfront District with the liquor license.
Right.
And I think it'd be good for us to, I mean, I never once heard us talk about liquor stores, gas stations, or strip clubs
We
going
envision,
downtown.
we envision restaurants with
Right.
bars inside
Correct.
a restaurant.
I
Right.
mean, quite honestly, I can't think of one restaurant that's not fast food that doesn't have a bar section for the most part. And they're not gonna come to Ellettsville or anywhere if they can't get a liquor permit or the
Right.
liquor permit's too expensive. And some concerns for our population isn't enough for some of these restaurants, but you gotta think, it's not just Ellettsville's population to take into consideration, it's the general metropolitan area, so, yeah, I mean, we already have one Texas Roadhouse, so I doubt we get another one of those, but there's other restaurants, we're probably not even on our radar, that aren't here, that are in other places, that would pull from Bloomington, would pull from Spencer, would pull from Bedford, and Martinsville. And I think that it's just good to reassure the public, we're not envisioning recreating Kirkwood downtown.
Right.
I think there was some misunderstanding maybe at the Plan Commission level as to what these proposed economic development areas and the proposed projects entailed. So right now, what the RDC has proposed are projects to improve downtown Ellettsville infrastructure, capital projects for infrastructure. So road improvements, lift station, power lines, sidewalks, trails,
Sewer.
tanker trucks, ambulance, engine truck, wastewater engineering,
Utilities, yeah.
signs, bridges, development costs for the community center, streetlights, art installation at Stewart Park, and things like that. So at some point in the future, if the RDC wanted to, you could enter into economic development agreements with developers and give them incentives and ask from them commitments for certain projects. But right now, this is just simply, what can we do to improve the infrastructure in downtown Ellettsville?
Kind of groundwork.
So-
And the Plan Commission, what were some of their concerns?
Well, I think one Plan Commission member just had a general question as to how this was going to work and what the tax impact would be. And I think maybe somebody was under the impression that this was going to be like a project where the town would enter into agreements with developers for projects. And I tried to explain, and maybe didn't do a very good job of it, that that's not what's happening right now.
But that would be the next stage, right? I mean, the first stage is to do the groundwork, the infrastructure, build, it will come, we talked about that. But once that's done, the next obviously is to get businesses here, so.
Right, I mean, you've got some choices under the statutes as to different things that you can do. You can continue to do capital improvements in the hopes that that will bring in businesses and people. You can do the economic development agreement. There's a provision that allows the town to do grants and loans to individuals who are seeking housing, but that they have to meet a certain financial requirement. You could provide financial assistance to neighborhood development corporations. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do. So it's just going to depend on, you know, how things pan out and how much money you have and.
So I do think we need to have a plan, you know, kind of a, I mean, I think we need the numbers for Baker and Tilly, both with the tax impact and, now with the tax impact, that statement, is that saying that if this grows to what we think, this is what will happen? Because right now, it's no tax impact, because it's not pulling from anything.
Right.
It's only the growth is only, so explain to me what exactly they're talking about with tax impact.
Well, if you, way back when, I think I had suggested that the RDC members look at a manual for redevelopment commissions and their attorneys. And so there's a sample, I think, in the back of that that's a tax impact statement. And so, yes, Baker Tilly will be telling you what they think will be drawn in
Oh, okay.
by these projects. So-
Okay, I was misunderstanding, because that's what was confusing me about that. I was thinking it was saying the impact on the rest of the town, but this is more like,
I think that's it too.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's a combination.
but I mean, once we get that, I think we can start doing the broad outlines of our priorities, I would think.
Well, and I think from my position.
Right.
Early on, and we talk about how we're going to channel money into the school system, because I think,
Right.
that's going to be an impact for us too,
Right.
so.
Hopefully with this being mainly commercial, you won't see anything.
Right.
I think what Baker Tilly can do is they can look at trending and they can do an educated guess as to
Yeah.
what's going to happen. So, and I think they will be probably very happy to give you some ideas as to what you can do in the future once this gets off the ground, how you might approach it. And so-
Baker Tilly's gonna be here the second meeting.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Well, they give do they do different scenarios? For example, I know the thing with the schools and other people, it might say, well, how is it gonna negatively affect this?
Right.
So, for example, if we didn't have the RDC and all the tax money went to the regular tax basis and was all split up, and the idea of us doing this so we can develop it more and bring in more money long run should be a win-win for everybody, but the idea of doing a tax, some type of impact in between, about if all the money now went to the schools, what would they get? Versus how much growth do we have to get, right? Where's the breaking point?
Right.
How much growth or improvement do we need to get before, we continue to expand and the school does not see a negative? It actually comes back and becomes a positive.
Right.
And somewhere in there should be some type of chart or something that shows where after so much development, so much tax revenue comes in, that it's a win-win for everybody.
The break even.
You're increasing the residential as well, which
Right.
should
Yes.
increase the.
Yeah, especially for the west side, that's where the
Yes.
school's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's crucial there.
Right.
Well, one of the things that I was asked by one of the Plan Commission members was to give some examples of how TIF has been used in other communities, and I just pulled some information from a Baker Tilly presentation that they gave here probably last summer, but they gave, during that presentation, Baker Tilly gave examples of Indiana TIF education partnerships. So one example was the town of Plainfield used TIF funds to fund a transportation center with bonds. Whitley County RDC contributed $7.5 million to Whitley County Schools to fund school building improvements. The city of Lebanon used TIF to fund a multi-use training room at Lebanon High School. Valparaiso allocates $600,000 of tax increments to schools annually. And then Baker Tilly also gave examples of how TIF can be used to benefit other taxing units. So the city of South Bend contributed $4.225 million in TIF bond funding to Community Education Center in partnership with St. Joseph County Public Library. Delaware County used TIF bonds to fund the construction of a new town hall, police station, and park for the town of Daleville. So those are just examples, and I reminded them that the town is getting a new fire truck from one of the Monroe County TIFs. So, and when I was doing my research, I came across, and I can't even remember what town it was, but they did a TIF district for the sole purposes of establishing like a youth sports field, a ball field. That was it. But that's all they wanted to do with that particular TIF district. So you can go as small or as big as you want. I know Plainfield has used a lot of their money for improvements around the airport. So, so you can go big or go small.
Is
I know
that-
Shelbyville is the example that I've had some information on, and the school and the RDC worked very closely together and worked and seems to be working really well for both the town and the school.
I love that idea. Is there something where you could get a summary of that? Because we will be asked questions, I'm
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Sure,
about-
I can email it to you.
Yeah, because I think that'd be great to have and say, well, here's some examples of what other towns have done with it, and we're open for suggestions. The reality is, I'm hoping that this board, the way it functions, I'm sure, or committee, a subcommittee, I keep reading about where we're actually a subcommittee of the council, is that how that actually works?
Well, you're actually a separate entity.
Right, we're a commission.
Yeah, you're a commission, you're a separate entity, but unlike, say, the Board of Zoning Appeals, which is quasi judicial, your goal is to meet the council's goals.
Okay, but anything that we do or don't do has to go through the council,
Right.
correct?
Well, not necessarily, it depends on what it is. If it's bonds, yes, those require council approval, as I understand it. And RDCs no longer have the power of eminent domain, but the council still has the power of eminent domain. So they could, if you wanted a project, I'm not saying you should do this, but
Yes, yes.
if you wanted to, I mean, and the council wanted to use the power of eminent domain to help you out with some sort of project, they could, so.
So we can make strong recommendations to the council.
Yes, I mean,
Does
the
every
council can persuade you, convince you, talk to you about
Does every
their,
recommendation also have to go through planning?
it depends, for the declaratory resolutions, that did have to go through the plan commission. But when you decide how to use your funds, I mean, I think that's totally up to the RDC.
Because
What
I love the idea, you know, again, being a West Sider, the idea of doing stuff for the schools, I love the schools. The schools are why I'm here today. You know, I give, you know, the teachers and stuff through the schools so much credit, but
Thank you.
the idea of having functions and things to
Oh,
make
yeah.
the school stronger and have more things to pull people where we compete more against the local schools. Because you know as well as I do, if the schools are great, the family
That's-
wants to come, the family comes, the kid comes, the business comes,
Right.
everything comes with it. So I think that's a big draw. I love the idea of what we're doing with
Yep.
commercial and industrial, right? But schools are a big draw too. So I
Yeah,
love the
I-
idea of doing something back for that. So I wasn't
Yeah, I
aware we
think-
could do that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I like that.
Because if, you know, honestly, businesses, real big ones, aren't gonna come here unless they know they have a workforce and housing for that workforce. And, you know, Edgewood does a great job for, you know, and both, actually, Edgewood and Seven Oaks both, great job of putting, you know, great students and graduating them quality people. We'd rather them stay in Ellettsville for the jobs than have to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm sure businesses would rather just be able to put up a sign and say, now hiring, than having to spend thousands, tens of thousands for headhunters to go all around the country in relocation costs. So, long-term, it'd be a win-win.
Well, and I do like the idea what you brought up about signage. Because I know when I came here, when you guys had the Envision stuff going on, and I still was kind of in the dark about it, heard about it. I went home that day, my wife and I had a lot of great conversation, was pretty excited about it. But the idea of people driving through Ellettsville, as long as we get them to slow down slow enough so they can actually see the signs, the idea of doing signage and getting the community excited, or even a little bit of marketing, I don't know if that's something that we can do too, but the idea of getting the town to understand where we're going and that their heart's in the right place, the idea of making this place even that much better for them, for their kids' kids and whatnot. I think buy-in is huge, and I think it's important to me. You know, the idea of just doing something because we can versus doing something because the community supports it. I like the idea of trying to do signage and some marketing and getting the community involved.
And that brings up a great point, because Main Street Ellettsville has done a lot of work on this already. Are we able to partner with them with projects? In other words, put money towards projects they're doing too? Jointly, do you know?
I think that's more of a Baker Tilly question, but,
Okay.
I mean, certainly public-private partnerships are contemplated, so.
Because what I'd hate to do, I don't want them, and I haven't even heard rumblings of this, so don't take it as, I don't want them to think, well, you want to do this, but we've already got a plan.
Right.
And you should just be able to help, you know, we don't need to
Come
walk.
aside.
Yeah, we don't need to walk through a minefield alone. I mean,
Right.
walk behind someone else that's already been there. So it's safer. But, yeah, I mean, they've done, Envision Ellettsville has in the chamber. But, so we've had some great ideas for that downtown section. Like I said, the biggest concerns, people worried about gas stations, liquor stores, bars, strip joints.
Well, that was a question that came up during the plan commission meeting. If, you know, when developers come in, and they build in the TIF district and they put in commercial projects, they still have to follow the local planning and zoning rules. I mean, those don't go out the window because it's a TIF district or
Right.
an economic development area, so.
Is that stuff, those type of things nixed through what we have currently? Is it, you know, as far as, I'm with you, I just assume not see any of those, but,
If a developer wants to put in a particular project, they still have to go through the planning department. They have to get their permits, they have to, file a petition with Denise if they need, if they need a development plan, that has to go through the plan commission. If they need something from the BZA, like, you know, special exception or variance, that all still has to go through the planning department, so.
Denise, we just spruced all that up recently, within the last year, planning.
Correct,
The
we passed
UDO?
the Unified Development
Yes,
Ordinance in
so there's-
September.
There's a long list of stuff they can and can't do.
And downtown, isn't that,
But you
isn't there
already
parts
have
of
it
that that's
together.
like
We
a
just,
specialty?
yeah, we just did
Just
that.
guide rails.
UDO,
Yeah.
There's a part of that that I can't remember the exact term.
Correct, we created a downtown district
Yes, mhm.
in the UDO.
And that gives us a lot more leeway over what can go there, I believe, does it not?
Correct.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, Darla, but isn't there state laws like against putting like liquor stores and, you know, adult entertainment by churches and residential areas within a certain?
Schools, yeah.
And schools,
200 feet.
right, so,
That's not very far.
Not
Do you have
downtown.
a copy of those guidelines, or girls, you're talking about with what's allowed now? Because I'd love to see it.
I can send you a link to the UDO.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
but I was really surprised when I saw people concerned about those. It's like, I've never even heard rumblings from any board, and it's like, where is this coming from? And I think they were under the impression that unlimited alcohol permits meant that anybody in the town of Ellettsville could just get alcohol permits, and no.
No, when people
By
build,
it.
they still have to go by the planning and zoning rules.
Do we have any discussions from the floor on what we've reviewed or not reviewed, or something we need to review?
I think I just mentioned that in both TIFs, and particularly on the west side, whatever plans you have will probably change as well. The priority will change. A couple of things that come to mind, we're not sure that by the time we need a three-way traffic light on 46, NDOT will be ready to put one in. And I think I've heard mentioned that a traffic light might expedite phases of either one of the projects that are currently being proposed or being worked on out there. So that might be a priority, but, you know, not to let the cat out of the bag, back to cats. But to say that when the two subdivisions or two projects that are currently being proposed and or are being worked on, when they're completely built out, by then the utilities department will have had to put in significant infrastructure, especially wastewater, to accommodate both of them at complete build out. So, you know, there'll be discussions with everyone involved in the future on when that infrastructure is put in. Obviously, we'd like to get it in before we need it. We never want to be in a position where we say we can't serve projects of interest. But that money, you know, might be, the money to do that might become opposing, I guess call it opposing priority, where we might want to use the TIF monies as well. So there's other things. I mean, for instance, if the Umberger property was sold and it was a large project that would have hundreds of employees, traffic could be a concern, and then all of a sudden maybe road infrastructure becomes a priority. So we really need to be prepared to put everything on the table, try to decide what our priorities are, and then be educated enough to realize priorities will change and be prepared to move forward with a new priority. Downtown, same thing. I mean, parking's of interest for any business that might come in there and draw a large crowd, especially a restaurant in the downtown area. And so, you know, we have a project to do parking along Vine Street and put in a streetscape that would enhance that. But then again, sidewalks might be the first thing wanna, tackle if the downtown area would have a development where not only do you have to park, but you need to walk to the premises, so we have a lot of sidewalks that could be a priority as well. And then on top of all that, there are wastewater projects in the downtown area that may or may not happen in the next 10 or 15 years. So anyway, just thought I'd mention that there is indeed a lot of different priorities, and they'll oppose one another sometimes, and that's where you guys get to decide. And so, just for the discussion.
The list that you started with, you helped us with, it was fantastic, but the idea of needs and wants, I mean, that's back to family stuff, that needs, things we've got to have done before anybody's gonna bring a business
Right.
to there, or before they can even function as a business.
Right.
And then obviously, once we get a couple that bite and say they wanna come, and we start to see the finances from it, then we're gonna have to be able to move left or right. So we need to have plan A, plan B, plan C, I get that. But I do like the needs and wants, because from sitting up here, I still don't know all the needs and wants about what has to be done before someone starts to build versus what is nice to have done before somebody builds.
And that's another argument or discussion to be had, what is needs and what are wants, because sometimes wants become a need if it drives economic development or enhances the possibility that we bring in parties that we want in town to land in town. So, you know, sometimes people say, well, those are frivolous and they're just wants, and in fact, in the big picture, and people that promote economic development would say, no, those are the things that you need to give that complete town view that people say, this is where we want to put our business.
Yep,
So-
makes sense.
And Mike, you talk to a lot of businesses that are even thinking about coming here. You'll be a good filter for that to say, everybody I talk to, as an example, says they'd like to see this. I mean, whatever
Yeah.
this could be.
Yeah, I mean, they'll talk to me, but
And us,
they'll talk, I mean, you know, Denise and myself are always in on the conversation to begin with, and then, you know, this board will need to know, you think, and, you know, I mean, we really need that broad stroke of what the community wants. I think in Envision Ellettsville, said a lot, told us a lot of that. And then needs and wants, and talking about how we attract people. I mean, Clark's here from the BEDC,
Yep.
and they are just, I mean, we just set up a meeting, or trying to set up a meeting.
Working on it.
Working on a meeting now, because we always like to know, you know, from their experience and viewpoint, we like that mix of what somebody used to always call that perfect soup, and we need all the ingredients to make it good. So anyway.
Is there a way to find other towns our size, townships that have the TIFs like we have, that we could, I mean, I would be willing, depending on when the time was, as long as my schedule works out there, I'd love to go and sit at some of these meetings or meet some of these people and figure out what they're doing. The idea of we're not fully reinventing the wheel, but I don't like the idea of reinventing the wheel when I can spend time about making the wheel spin faster. So I don't know if there's any place online or research or some ideas of
Well,
where to go.
we can go to Clark, and he can throw out all kinds of good places to look. I mean, I recently, because of utility situation, ended up in Franklin, and I'd never been really in Franklin, so I had some time, and I sat around downtown Franklin for a while, and it just gave me all kinds of good ideas. I mean, you know, you can sit there and go, this is really nice, that's really nice, and I was really impressed with what they did. Whether they used a TIF or what have you, I don't know that, but some of the projects they've pulled off were planned, I can tell. So, yeah, I think we can take some road trips.
I love that idea, or if the people we work with that work with other TIFs could say, oh, well, we know 2 or 3 that would be willing to meet with you guys and do do a little field trip, so to speak, and, pat them on the back and appreciate them, and, but same token, come back here with, more functional ideas versus envisioned ideas.
We're so, at the start of everything, and our finances are such that, I was talking to Chief Patton today about this. It's pretty easy to make decisions because we just don't have a big bank of money that we can just, oh, I can't think of everything we want to do because there's so much money. It's more like we'll have to be thoughtful and strategic about how we spend that money. And so, and that money may not come for a while, so I read the article Sunday, like everybody else did probably, and I didn't ever see that amount. I would say that $60 million they talked about, that was over 25 years.
Right.
And that's assuming things progress, but,
It was the headline.
yeah. There's a grabber, that's for
what
sure.
people see.
Yep.
But there's no reason to think we won't have success here, and indeed, we'll probably be talking about future TIFs farther out. I'm sure we're gonna grow, but currently, as we move along, for me, I'm not too concerned about being able to figure out how we need to spend money, whether it's from the RDC or it's the town coffers or what have you, because we just don't get to have all kinds of choices. All we need to do is keep our eye on the ball and spend the money where it's most needed. And we're still in that evolution of our lives. When we get to the point where we have $10 or $20 million sitting around burning a hole in our pocket, then we can argue about what we need. But right now, that's
I do like the idea, though, of other TIFs of saying, that have done it already, to say, well, we started with this, 'cause we thought it was huge, and it was terrible.
Sure.
We did this other one, three projects down the road, we really wish we started with that one. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I know we don't have any money, and I'm willing to go on my own time and with my own gas money, you follow me? But my thought is, what do we figure out as far as off of other people's mistakes, and then we don't make the same mistakes ourselves? So, and I get you, we gotta pull in one project to get it going so we can start to finance, and then we can hopefully expand off of that. But I do like the idea of maybe someone else that's done it and say, well, what did you learn in the first 3 years, 5 years that you wish you would have done different?
Yeah, for me, I mean, going back to the start of this conversation, the creation of a riverfront makes a lot of sense. Nothing I get asked more about in the last 5 years, more than when are we gonna get some restaurants into town? Some variety, some nighttime restaurants, some sit-down places. What we have is really nice, but, people want more variety. And so, I think looking at the riverfront is a really good idea. It's an opportunity that Denise originally brought up, and it's a spinoff of having the TIF downtown. So I really think that seems to be a good idea. I don't want the Las Vegas Strip either downtown, but, somebody mentioned Kirkwood. I'd take old Kirkwood.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and that would really be tremendous. So, restaurants, and I'm not opposed to a bar or two, and, ice cream shops and whatever down a strip just sounds great to me. So, the TIF's important, and then I think the riverfront really could be a starter for a couple people that are on the edge of taking a chance. I'm not sure our town's big enough. I think density is one of the reasons restaurants haven't landed here yet, but I think they also need to know that we're for growth, and we're for turning our money back around and improving their environment so they can succeed. And so, anyway.
Well, just as we go out to Bloomington, if we have a destination place, they'll come to us.
Yeah.
And if we can't have the bar of building and cost of ownership and, they're being all in, that's gotta be lower than Bloomington. 'Cause they put it in Bloomington, they know the people are right there, they're right around it. For us, it's gotta be low enough to give it time to get the reputation to come out. But it will, I mean, depending on, especially if it's a well-known franchise. I know people don't, I hate chain restaurants, they make money. You know, that's kind of an anchor. You have to reinvent the wheel, but I'll take anything.
Yeah, I'd mentioned that, even 15 years ago, I think, people were talking about maybe putting the town hall downtown and it being an anchor. And so they even had a piece of property picked out. And so, you know, there's a lot of good ideas how things end up, you know, here we are here. And maybe it's good we're here, so we didn't take up room downtown that, you know, a project could take. So you never know how it's going to turn out, but, you know, the downtown will grow. I mean, I'm almost sure it's going to grow, but how fast may depend on us and how much we're willing to support growth.
Well, I know I know we drive, me and my family drive to Spencer all the time to go to a Thai restaurant. We love it. Yep, we love driving we used to drive to Martinsville all the time because I had a place called 40 North or 4 North. But it had
Office
brick
Square.
walls, brick walls inside, had a bar, it gave you some atmosphere.
Yep.
And we have the ability to do that down there on the riverfront area. It just depends on what we're gonna do with that also. Is it something that the Corps of Engineers gonna come in and cover up? Or is it something that we're gonna open up so people can see it and enjoy it? I mean, when I go to Gatlinburg, I love walking across bridges and over water, and you know, that's just part of what brings you there. I don't know, when you talk about the riverfront, it better be something that we're gonna expand on versus just cover up if we're gonna call it the riverfront.
Yeah, we gotta make sure there's not too much river.
Well, the riverfront expands a block or two past Temperance as well, and then it goes all the way out past the Village Inn, and then it goes west about to the end of older subdivisions as well. We captured that.
I will tell you too, just as an aside, if anybody tells you it's Jack's Defeats, it's a creek, not a river, I have pictures when I was about 14 in a big raft, like you do at rafting, with me and my family going down Jack's Defeat Creek whenever it was really high, and it was a crazy rafting trip. So I have a white rat rafter. We could maybe even market that, you know, it might be a place to come for.
Yeah, Jeff tells his story too. I don't think he's ever been the same since.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Mike, what is because I've been asked about this, it's technically a flood zone downtown, right, in that area?
Floodway.
Okay, what is the difference and what does that do to hinder people building, if anything?
Well, the mitigation the town did changed it significantly.
Yes.
But the DNR hasn't been back out to shoot the elevations and see how it was changed, but it's not impossible, especially in that area. May have to elevate some of the buildings, and but it just depends on the use that wants to go in and
Would
their
we be able to
design.
get that floodway designation removed over time?
Not entirely. How can I word it? They may have, their maps are now showing, how can I word it, like 25% or 100%, so it would be that.
Okay,
And it may depend on, you know, we have only completed one phase of the Christopher Burke study we
Right.
had about flood mitigation. So the next phase would be to work on McNeely Bridge, maybe put in a couple storm pipes. They wouldn't be pipes, they'd be structures on the north side of the bridge, and opening up some of the waterway farther to the, I guess it's still north. It's
the
hard to
McNeely Bridge,
Yeah.
that would have to be something we do with the county, correct?
It would be.
We've had good discussion. I think we brought up a lot of different various points, and I like where it's going as we're continue to, like you said, it's early on, just starting to pull stuff together. but I do think we're starting to have some bite on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything they want to add or discuss?
I would say on the 24th, there may be some public comments
Yeah,
related to transparency with TIF districts, because it was just shared, and I was trying to understand it to encapsulate it, but I still can't. But I guess that an RDC up north in Hamilton County, they created another independent company, traded property with that, and I mean, they did a lot of property trades and it's hard to tell who owns what, and those type of games I think we need to be very careful on.
Well, and we have a strict thing that we talked about that where anybody associated with this trying to make it happen cannot have any investments.
Right.
Is that what you're saying? There's maybe some shady
Well,
stuff?
that's just
where-
it. No one knows because the RDC is public, but then I guess there was a CDC or something they formed, a separate company, and then 3 or 4 LLCs. I can send you the link on it, and it's layer upon layer of confusion. And I think that we need to be clear to the public that, just because one TIF district does stuff like that, we're not, and if we did structure things that way, we would comply with every law to be transparent, so nobody thinks that anybody's,
You have that somewhere, right? We talked about that, how we can't directly or indirectly participate or invest in known projects that were,
The board members can,
Okay.
correct?
yeah. So I mean, I think that's what you're talking about, right?
yeah, it's,
But if somebody asks, it's always nice if somebody asks that question and say, oh, well, based on this rule or whatever, we've all sworn an oath that we will not participate. And if we did, it would have, I assume it'd have legal ramifications. But, no, I'm with you. I'd like to, I don't know, because the rules for our committee actually came from the town council, correct?
right.
Okay. So I mean, if we have a set of rules or a set of things that anybody wants to see, it'd be great to have that available where you can say, well, here you go. I don't know exactly what that existed, but I read something today saying about how that's why I was asking about the committee or subcommittee, that, someone else has made the rules for us that we abide by. And I think it'd be good to have available because we will have questions on that.
I sent you not the link, but I copied and pasted the thing on that. If you want to send it to the other commission members if they're interested. I quite honestly don't understand it.
Right.
And I'm pretty good at picking these things up, and if I don't understand, I've lost after a couple lines of it.
Well, I think I read something today that said that the council, the town council can actually, am I doing the terminology correct? Town council that set us up, they can actually start another RDC even separate than us if they want to. They can't, but we're not doing that. We've got one. I'm saying it sounds to me like they started setting up other committees just to confuse people.
I don't want to say it, it's just
It's non-transparent, and that
yeah, it's
it's the appearance of, yeah, regardless.
Don't get us
a
run out
community
of town.
development corporation they set up.
Like I said, I don't think anybody, we have
The
no interest.
county did,
Yeah.
William?
A city.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the final drawings. That's something that we can read, that we can put up and blow up where everybody can see it and read it. Will we have handouts that day also with that type of stuff? Or
Probably a good idea.
yeah, okay. It's always nice if somebody asks a question, say, well, here you go,
Yeah.
let it get on the way out. And,
Definitely solicit opinions for people that, what they would like to
Yeah.
see downtown. And I'm hoping some business owners show up to say, hey, if you guys could do this, this would help us make the decision to,
yeah. I think the idea of even having, like you said, maybe a paper for that, saying matter of fact, we have papers over in the corner, we'd like you to write down any thoughts you have on where it should expand or what's important to Ellettsville or whatnot. I agree with you, I like to see those and read them, yeah.
and here's Mike Farmer's phone number.
text 24/7, right?
Pretty sure everybody's got it.
I think that's it for me. Anybody else? Nobody? All right, I guess at that point, we can adjourn the meeting for the RDC for Monday, January 27th, 2025, until we meet again on February
10th.
10th, which is a now, they're not, none of them are set up as working, correct?
No, so you can vote at every meeting. Remember, we made them
Right.
all regular meetings.
At the meeting or now? Do we need to vote it now to make it a?
No, when you approved your annual, and then the town council approved the annual meeting dates, they were all approved as regular meeting dates.
That's right.
Because it's easier to change it to a work session if you're not gonna vote, but it's a lot harder with the notification to change it to a voting meeting.
So we're not voting that time, not till the one after it.
Right, if there's nothing on to vote, it still would be a regular meeting, it just, we wouldn't
Informational
have to,
stuff, yeah.
we wouldn't have to change it.
All right, very good.